It's almost just like class when I walk in. Everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome students, faculty, family, friends, preceptors, and everyone else that has joined us today. My name is Joan Caruso, and I'll be leading the ceremony today. I am program chair and clinical associate professor here at Clarkson's PA program. Joining me here on the stage are faculty and staff that make it all happen. I have with me Emlyn Cohen. She is our clinical site coordinator. I have, oh my God, Morgan Beldock. I have a Morgan Beldock. I'm so excited to have you on the stage. I have Deanna Denault, Heather Munns, Chris Lapointe, Jim Cerio, who will be our guest speaker today. I have Sam Lucas, Dawn White, and Dr. Tushar Sursat. I'd also like to acknowledge our class of 2023. I see some of you scattered out through the crowd. These guys are loaded with talent and striving every day to be the competent, compassionate PAs that will meet the needs for all of the healthcare here in the North Country and elsewhere. We appreciate your presence and support of your underclassmen. We're thankful that we're able to be here today and honor our first year class in a moving up ceremony. Today is a recognition that the class of 2024 is making a step towards joining the PA profession and medical team. The faculty and staff have come to know this group well and have been an active part of their transition into the culture of the program and the profession as a whole. They have demonstrated the ability to adapt to the rigors of the program, including any new impositions that COVID has introduced. Their adaptability and resiliency will serve them well as we prepare in this last semester to send them out into the community. PA school has been described as a lot of things. It has been compared to a race, or more appropriately, to trying to take a drink of water from a running fire hose. Sounds fun. This group of 27 has not only survived that first sip, but they have shown the ability to adapt and go with the flow when needed in the wake of COVID times. A reward for this accomplishment is to present them with their short white coat in preparation to send them out into the clinical world, where they will once again get to be reacquainted with patients. The significance of the short white coat will be explored a bit later today in our ceremony. The faculty and I are very proud of what has been accomplished by all of our students and graduates. We just graduated our 9th class this past May. Some of them are working near and some far, but all are serving their communities. You, S1s and S2s, will be taking those same steps, those steps that seem so far away, but will be here in a blink. Next, we will have a few words from Jake Murr, first-year PA student and Vice President of the PA Student Society.
Thank you, Professor Caruso. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the short white coat ceremony for the PA class of 2024. My name is Jake Murr, and I'm honored to speak today on behalf of our class. I'd first like to take the time to thank all the family, friends, and significant others who traveled from various parts of the country, as well as those who couldn't be here in person, to celebrate our first milestone as future medical professionals. You have continuously encouraged us to recognize all our full potential and have given your unconditional support throughout this process. Your love, kindness, and patience that you have shown us throughout our lives, especially over the last 10 months, does not go unnoticed. I know I speak for all of us when I say this. You deserve to be recognized and celebrated as well. So with that, I ask my class to please stand with me, face our loved ones, and give them a round of applause. Speaking of having patience, I must next address our professors and our wonderful administrative assistant, Morgan. Over the course of the year, you have guided and molded us into becoming critical thinking future clinicians while providing a high level of medical education. This has been intricately layered in order to build a long-term foundation of knowledge. It is incredible how much we have learned, retained, and applied over such a short period of time, and that is a true testament to each one of your professional, purposeful teaching styles. With that said, you provide us with so much more than just facts and figures on a daily basis. Your doors are always open for us in case we need clarity on a lecture, to talk about our goals and aspirations, or just catch up about life outside of our classroom walls. Even when you are busy, you will sit there with an empathetic ear for our impromptu therapy sessions. Isn't that right, Professor LaPointe? To have an environment that optimizes our learning while building meaningful relationships is truly an incredible thing. We are well aware that this takes commitment and sacrifice, so we sincerely thank you. And last, I would like to congratulate our class on our accomplishments that brought us here today. I think it's safe to say that there's been quite a significant amount of growth from our first few weeks. Okay. When we started in this program, we were just a bunch of strangers coming from all different places and backgrounds. Some of us young enough to still be an undergrad, and others like myself, old enough to have a mortgage and a life insurance. But we entered our new classroom, our nerves masked with excitement, literally masked with excitement, ready to face one of the most challenging experiences of our lives. At the time, I believe many of us thought that we were going to have to do this 2.5-year grind alone and on our own. But that couldn't have been farther from the truth. We have all come together and found a way to rise to our own individual challenges, but never forgetting to lift each other up along the way. This is especially true when it comes to the weekly anxiety that accompanies each exam. To put that into perspective for some of you, lucky number 50 is coming up on Tuesday, but who's counting? We celebrate each other's accomplishments, and we always celebrate each other's birthdays. Where was I? At the end of the day, I believe we do our best to support all aspects of each other's lives, which is something I hope we will continue to do throughout the rest of our PA education and our lifetime. In closing, I want to congratulate our class on what we have accomplished, while also emphasizing that the best is yet to come. As we soon put on our white coat, we must recognize that it is humbling as much as it is exciting. It symbolizes that we are now entrusted to start our clinical year as we continue to learn how to provide empathetic, quality care to patients in our community who are at their most vulnerable state. We will soon be able to represent ourselves as future clinicians while also having the privilege to proudly bear the Clarkson University logo on our sleeves. We are prepared and we are ready. Thank you all again for being here, and please enjoy the celebration.
Back down. Thank you, Jake. Our next speaker is an alum of Clarkson University. Dr. Jim Cerio has worked with our program for years and is oftentimes one of the first people that our students interact with during the interview phase. He's been a blessing to our program, and we are very happy to have him here today to speak at our ceremony. Thanks so much for joining us today, Dr. Cerio.
It's quite an honor to talk with you today. I met you when you were interviewing for the program, and now I get to see you as you are about to begin working with patients. As the story I'm about to tell you will illustrate, the physician assistant program at Clarkson means a great deal to me. When I moved to Canton in January 2013, I developed quite a cough. I had no primary care provider in those early days, so I called the medical staff at Canton Potsdam Hospital and asked if they could help me see someone. They told me about the after-hours clinic in Canton. I went there that night, not knowing what to expect. A nurse brought me into an exam room and talked with me. He said, "My doc will be with you shortly." After a few minutes, in walked the most pleasant man. He sat down, acted like he had plenty of time, acted like nothing else was important to him, and then listened to my story. As I finished my story, he calmly said with a smile on his face, "I know about that cough. I've had it for a month." He told me how to treat it, gave me a prescription, and then asked a question. "Since you're a psychologist, would you be interested in getting involved in a physician assistant program up here?" That man was Dr. Michael Whitehead, the director and founder of Clarkson's PA program. Mike knew that the relationship with his patient is as important as the science he would be relying on to treat that patient. And in that brief encounter, Mike established a relationship with me. The science he used helped me to overcome that nasty cough. The relationship he established helped me to overcome that cough too. Psychologists have studied the relationship since 1957, when Dr. Carl Rogers, one of the founders of the humanistic school within psychology, published a paper entitled "The Necessary and Sufficient Conditions of Therapeutic Personality Change," and a book entitled "On Becoming a Person." His message was that certain core conditions, when made present in a relationship by a helper, lead to growth and change in the person being helped. Implied was that the technique used, the sophistication of the helper, the school from which the helper graduated, the tools the helper had, and the quality of the helper's organization mattered much less than the quality of the relationship the helper established with the patient. Research since 1957 has continued to show the value of the relationship. Dr. Donald Meichenbaum, one of the founders of the cognitive behavioral perspective, recently said that the relationship accounts for 3 times the improvement in patients than the therapeutic technique used by the clinician. One only has to consider my ability to recollect my interaction with Dr. Whitehead 10 years ago to have evidence of the power of the relationship. So, what makes up the relationship? There are 4 ingredients, and they are summed up in the mnemonic PEGS. The P in PEGS stands for unconditional positive regard. Dr. Whitehead showed unconditional positive regard when he calmly entered the room, introduced himself, sat across from me, leaned forward a bit, looked into my eyes, and asked what brought me in. He smiled when it was appropriate, and he had a concerned facial expression when that was appropriate. He asked few questions. Instead, he said things like, "I wonder if you've had a sore throat," and "I guess you've had that cough for a while." He knew that questions often lead to short answers, while questions shaped into statements often lead to elaborate responses. He commented on my temperature, my pulse, and the fact that I seemed to have no other complaint. He was not at all rushed. He acted as if no one was more important to him. He never looked at his watch. Even though he had someone in the next exam room, he never seemed in a hurry to leave. He even asked me if I would like to get involved in your program. The key to unconditional positive regard is showing respect. When we are doing that first component in PEGS, we are connecting with the patient by demonstrating that the patient is the only person important at that moment, and we are doing that regardless of how the patient behaves. Note that we are demonstrating this respect with our words and our actions. The E in PEGS stands for empathic understanding. Empathic understanding involves listening closely to the other person's words as we also guess as best we can the other person's feelings. Some describe people's talk as being very similar to a song. Both songs and talk involve lyrics and a melody. The lyrics in a person's talk are the words the person uses. The melody lies beneath the words. Much like in a song, it is the melody in a person's talk which communicates the person's feelings things the person might not directly say. Dr. Whitehead used empathic understanding when he recalled how miserable his cough was. He then plucked words from me. 2 weeks, he said, when I told him how long I had had the cough. He added, "That must have been an annoying and scary 2 weeks." When connecting with another person through empathic understanding, you'll find that you will often rely on your own memory about experiences you have had. You'll do this in an almost instantaneous way. Dr. Whitehead, no doubt, remembered when something unusual happened to him and how worrisome it was when it didn't stop. He used that to guess that I was worried too. Note that even if Dr. Whitehead guessed wrong, even if I hadn't been annoyed or scared, it still would have meant a lot to me that he was trying to understand my experience. That cements the connection between the provider and the patient. If you think about healing in the same way as I do, an important step in the healing process began right at that moment. When you demonstrate empathic understanding, you show that you are taking time to try to understand everything about that patient's situation. It demonstrates that your focus is on that person only. It shows that you are available and present. You'll find that your patient will tell you even more. Providers who demonstrate empathic understanding have patients who know their provider gets them. They begin to relax, they begin to trust, they think, "I'm being understood." The healing has begun. In PEGS, the G stands for genuineness. We are genuine when we are ourselves. We aren't hiding behind a facade or pretending we are someone whom we are not. You're being you, not some great professional you are trying to copy. Genuineness helps your patients trust you. It helps your patients view you as another person. You are someone with needed knowledge and skill, but you are also someone who is in many ways much like them. It creates comfort for the patient. Your genuineness begins to help your patient be honest and open. This helps you get more of the story. It creates a sense of safety in your patient. It is yet another level on which you are connecting. Dr. Whitehead used genuineness when he told me about his cough. He used genuineness when he simply sat peacefully with me and listened to my story. That was who he was. Remember that we can be genuine in different ways in different situations. When I have my psychologist cap on, my genuineness might be different from the way I behave when I'm wearing my husband cap. That's all okay. Your job is to be you, not someone you're pretending to be. Don't forget that genuineness coexists with unconditional positive regard and empathic understanding. Our job is to show, without arrogance or pretense, our desire to understand and respect our patients. The last component in PEGS, the S, is specificity of expression. Two psychologists, Drs. Karkoff and Berenson, described this skill 10 years after Dr. Rogers' paper was published. It reminds us to be succinct as we interact with patients, talk with words that fit the patient's lexicon, and stay on target. We need to listen closely, comment appropriately, add short statements that demonstrate we are paying attention, and help the patient to say more. Dr. Whitehead did this when he said only that which needed to be said, talked with me as if I were an equal, and stayed focused on my health. In early 2020, I visited a radiation oncologist at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. I was a bit scared. I had met with this doctor 2 months earlier, and he wanted to begin 8 weeks of radiation. I wasn't sure I wanted to go through that. At each of my visits, a resident came into the room first and got information from me. I clearly remember the January 2020 visit, and not because of the radiation oncologist. It was the resident whom I will never forget. Nan was with me. The resident walked into the room, introduced herself to both of us, and sat directly across from me. I remember how calm and soft-spoken she was. I also remember how she looked into my eyes. Even though she had a laptop computer with her, along with papers that she needed to go through, she looked into my eyes. She leaned forward a bit, and her hands were resting on top of her laptop. She wanted to know my questions and concerns. As I talked about my questions, I remember her saying that this visit was probably anxiety-provoking. She picked up almost immediately on my anxiety. I remember telling her that in the 7 years I had been involved in care at Hopkins, I never really learned what stage my cancer was in. She told me the stage without any hoopla. I told her that I didn't want to go through radiation if it looked like I could safely put it off. She said, "Okay, let's think about that. I understand that because radiation can sometimes change the quality of life a bit." I remember how she seemed concerned about nothing else and no one else. Even though Nan was in the room, the resident remained focused on me. When she could tell that I had covered everything with her that I needed to say, she excused herself to consult with Dr. Song. In a few minutes, both returned, talked with us, answered questions, made a plan, and the visit ended. I don't recall the visit being longer than a typical initial visit with a doctor, but it was a visit in which everything was covered and resulted in me being quite satisfied. I was heard and valued, and my anxiety, by the way, completely vanished. So as you prepare for visits with patients, keep in mind that the relationship is as important as the science. It is as simple as PEGS. Remember how Dr. Whitehead and a resident at a hospital in Baltimore used PEGs to affect one patient so deeply that he hasn't forgotten those interactions. You'll always know you are having a profound effect on the healing of your patients when you use PEGs. You'll also know that you are giving great care to a person in need. Enjoy these visits with patients and your rotations in February. If they are anything like the one-year predoctoral internships that psychologists in training go through, you are about to have one of the best periods you've ever had in higher education. You're about to feel what it is like to be a PA. Congratulations.
Thank you, Jim. Professor LaPointe will now provide some background on the history of the white coat and ceremony.
Centuries ago, medical professionals dressed themselves in black garb, which was done for two reasons. First, black was considered formal attire and signified the formal nature of an encounter between the physician and the patient. Additionally, medical professionals were only consulted as a last resort, so frequently they dealt with corpses and they wore black out of respect for the deceased. In the early 1900s, things began to change in medicine. Scientific advances led to the development of aseptic technique, and at the same time, medicine became aligned with science. At that time, the lab coat was a symbol of a scientist, so a white lab coat became the symbol of medicine. White symbolizes the cleanliness and pureness, while the lab coat signifies medicine as a scientific enterprise. Today, the white coat is viewed as the cloak of compassion and symbol of caring and hope which the patient expects to receive from their medical provider. In many healthcare institutions, the length of the white coat signifies the status of the wearer. The short white coat signifies the wearer as a student, and a longer white coat for the graduate practicing professional. Some institutions use mid-length coats to signify the student's progression, while other institutions choose to wear all short white coats to signify every healthcare professional as a lifelong learner. Today, we're going to present these students with a short white coat. This is being done because the students are entering a phase in their education where they will be encountering patients and signifying their entrance into the medical profession as a physician assistant student. At graduation in 20 months, these students will be presented their long white coats, signifying their status as a graduate healthcare professional. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you, Professor LaPointe. Emlyn will now read the students' names as they receive their short white coat from their faculty advisor.
The following students will be coded by their advisor, Professor Chris LaPointe. Taylor Hinson. Jacob Meir. Mia Polino. The following students will be coded by their advisor, Professor Heather Munns. You don't know? It was actually Dawn first. Sorry. They'll be coded by their advisor, Dr. Dawn White. Madison Barber. Sydney Lancaster. Erica Pereno. Sophie Schneidman. The following students will be coded by their advisor, Professor Heather Munns. Justina Georges. Anji Zhang. Taomi Lin. Christina Ramdeo. Hannah Whitehead. Brian Lee. The following students will be coded by their advisor, Dr. Tushar Sirsat. Tatiana Caro. Meiji Lee. Cameron Peets. Carly Stoner. The following students will be coded by their advisor, Dr. Deanna Denault. Kaylee Catalano. Maria McCarchick. Chase Perkins. Sumit Singh. V. Vo. Alexander Berger. Mariah Simons. Amelia Perry. The following students will be coded by their advisor, Professor Sam Lucas. Michelle DeAngelis. Bella May.
Can we get a round of applause for our class of 2024? If I could have you guys actually come up here and you'll take a group photo on the stage, we'll vacate for a second. You guys can take a picture. Uh-oh. I just need something. I just need to be able to do this. Thank you. Now that you're all seated, I'd like you to rise. Just the class of 2024, please. We're going to take the oath of the PA profession, which is handily located in here. So please repeat after me. I pledge to perform the following duties with honesty and dedication. I will hold as my primary responsibility the health, safety, welfare, and dignity of all human beings. I will uphold the tenets of patient autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence, and justice. I will recognize and promote the value of diversity. I will treat equally all persons who seek my care. I will work to constantly support patient advocacy and empower my patient to be active partners in their medical treatment. I will hold in confidence the information shared in the course of practicing medicine. I will assess my personal capabilities and limitations, striving always to improve my medical practice. I will actively seek to expand my knowledge and skills, keeping abreast of advances in medicine. I will work with other members of the healthcare team to provide compassionate and effective care to patients. I will use my knowledge and experience to contribute to an improved community. I will give unselfishly to the local, underserved community where I am identified as a new medical leader. I will work diligently to not only treat diagnosed medical diseases, but to also promote preventative care. I will respect my professional relationship with the medical team with which I will work. I will share and expand knowledge with the profession. These duties are pledged with sincerity and upon my honor. Thank you. You may be seated. Class of 2024, you'll notice that on your white coat there are some adornments. I'd like you to pay particular attention to your right shoulder. There you will find a Clarkson University PA Department logo patch. Although this is required on your student coat, this patch does not necessarily signify you as a student PA, but as a Clarkson PA. The faculty and I are very proud to send you out into the clinical world as a representation of our program. I hope you mirror that pride as you display the fact that you are a Clarkson PA. Now that you have these beautiful new white coats, we will soon be letting you loose on the general population. Remember to keep your eyes, ears, and hearts open to all the learning opportunities that will be coming your way. These opportunities have a habit of showing up in traditional and some not so traditional ways. Listen, watch, and learn from your faculty, preceptors, medical team members, and most importantly, from your patients. You never know when you'll be part of an experience that will change your life and possibly the way that you practice medicine. I learned a lot of medicine PA school, but I also learned a lot about life. Our department motto is as follows: a passe et esse, which means from possibility to reality. These students are well on their way to making their dreams of becoming a PA a reality. We are proud and excited as Clarkson PA faculty to take this journey with you and support you along the way. Congratulations to all of you. Please feel free to come and congratulate the students and chat with the faculty. Thank you all for joining us here today.